everyone. On this week's Energy Quick Chat, we speak to Kola Karim. He is the Chief Executive Officer, United Kingdom-based Shoreline Energy International. Thank you for speaking with us on Energy Quick Chat, sir.
Thank you for inviting me, Omono.
Great. So let's start. What's your view on plans by the European Union to ban Russian crude oil?
Look, this is the situation as of today. The problem is banning in name, easy to say, but what alternatives do the Europeans have when you ban crude oil exports from Russia into the European Union? It's a big question, and I'll tell you why. Today, at least 30% of the supply of the European Union consumption comes from Russia. That is a huge amount of supply that's going to be disrupted and a replacement found. And the problem is, where do you find that replacement from? Remember, Iran has had huge disruption because of sanctions. Venezuela,
Yes.
the same. So when you have big reserve owners like Iran, big reserves like in Venezuela, both under severe sanctions for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years, the problem of finding the quantum of replacement the European Union needs in crude oil is just not readily available. So that's the quagmire.
Right. So, what are the expected impacts or opportunities, if any, for Africa's oil producers?
There is a lot. Look, African oil producers or Africa resource producers in general should be the biggest beneficiary of this problem between Russia and Ukraine. And I'll tell you why. Both from the oil supply front and secondly on the gas supply front.
So, Africa's oil producers are heading to Angola for its high-profile Cape 8 conference next week. So what are your expectations?
The expectations of the conference in Angola is simple. African producers are going to get together with the international producers and international oil companies and also some people, financiers, talk about what is obvious. And what has been obvious in Africa, we're not producing quota, and that is down to two major faults. The pandemic slowed down consumption, and ESG. Global disposition was put out that environmental, social, and governance become a prominent role, which means pronouncements were made by international financiers. They are not willing to finance fossil fuels anymore. Now, if that is the situation, that means African oil and gas has been starved of funding, and the first benchmark problem is the global pandemic. The second one is lack of capital to reinvest into oil and gas production. So these are all points of contention that will be up for discussion in Luanda, but there are no quick answers to this.
Okay, so Africa needs to ramp up its oil and gas production, but investments, just like you said, are slowing down, even for major producers like Nigeria. Tell me, what's going on in your industry?
Look, as I said, the ESG pronouncement and decarbonization is a huge problem for the future of oil and gas. And if global financiers or global providers of capital are now being restricted in capital being employed or deployed into oil and gas sector, that's going to be a problem. Remember, oil and gas production has a natural decline curve of about 5% a year. So if you're producing, a country like Nigeria producing, let's say 2 million barrels, on average a year, you need to replace those barrels by about 5% a year. If not, your production would naturally decline for about 4-5%. So if investments not available to continue the work program, continue the search for more oil and gas replacement and reserve replacement, there is eventually going to be a problem and there will be gaps. And that is what we've seen today. We've had pandemic for 2 years. We've had global providers of capital saying we're not going to provide capital to fossil fuels. So you've got about 3 to 4 years of lack of directed and targeted investment into the oil and gas sector. The end result is what we see, very high oil prices. As global economy is opening up again. Remember, during the pandemic, airplanes were not flying, factories were closed, so consumption of oil was at all-time low. That's why we saw prices as low as $16-17 a barrel. In the United States, we had oil at negative.
So how are independent producers like Shoreline Energy adjusting to the current global oil market turmoil, from supply to demand and highly elevated oil prices?
The big picture is high oil prices should be sung and danced for us all in an oil-producing country like Nigeria. Why? Because Nigeria gets and takes in more money if prices are high, right? But companies like ourselves, Nigeria has its own peculiar problems that's affected the industry. One is aging oil and gas infrastructure in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So you look at the pipelines as an example. Transfocado pipeline is over 50 years old. Over 50 years old. So there's breakages and leakages on those pipelines. The second major problem is theft. Mm-hmm. The theft and incursion onto these pipelines and facilities of oil and gas companies is huge. So if I'm producing 10 barrels, and by the time I pump it through the pipeline, 2 barrels leak away because the pipeline is old, then another 20 barrels is stolen. At the end of the pipeline, I only get 60 back. Who's suffering the loss? Nigeria loses, the company, the producer loses, it's lose-lose. So government, who's in charge of security, must take it serious to making sure we all stop and stem the losses. But the opportunities are there, prices are high, all projections saying oil prices will be high for the next 2 to 3 years because of lack of investment over the last 2 to 3 years. But would Nigeria benefit without this important stopgaps in place? Adequate security to secure the infrastructure, security to preventing bunkering and illegal theft of oil. So it's now on government to make sure those changes come in to stem these losses across board. Remember, 85% of Nigeria's foreign exchange earning comes from oil. So it's something we've got to take seriously. If someone is stealing something, providing 85% of your income in your household, 85% of your income in your household, someone is stealing it. Yeah. Don't you see you're going to have a problem? Mm-hmm. That is the situation. So government is the master planner of security and security architecture and apparatus in Nigeria.
Yes.
I, as a company, have no business, nor do I have the legal backing to providing security, because they cannot, the only person that could bear arms are people sanctioned and certified by the federal government of Nigeria.
Okay, sir, give me your 3 most important advocacy issues for Africa's hydrocarbon industry right now.
Today, the biggest one should be Africa should be negotiating with the European Union in becoming the alternative supplier of natural resource, oil and gas to the European Union. The European Union has made a pronouncement. They need an alternative to Russia. There's no better positioning by geographical location. Africa is close. Algeria today is providing about 8%. Imagine if the pipeline is built from Nigeria all the way through West Africa via Morocco into Spain. That will be a game changer for countries like Nigeria. Then you have countries like Mauritania, countries like Senegal, and Ivory Coast, Ghana, who can plug in to increasing their flow of natural gas into Europe as well. So it's a win-win position for Africa. It engages on African free trade. It interconnects Africa and African nations that were trading and working together. But more importantly, it gives and provides the European Union with alternative energy security they so desire, that is a must for their energy security. Look, Germany today, 55% of German gas comes from Russia. And Germany is the largest economy in Europe. So you can imagine what will happen to the German economy if they do not have an alternative. And this is where a country like Nigeria, with 210 TCF of gas reserves that's found, you can imagine how much of a game changer we will be to the value add, and more importantly, how much of a game changer value add that will be to our diversification of foreign exchange earning to the Nigerian economy.
Thank you very much. We thank you so much for your time here on Energy Quick Chat. Kola Karim, Chief Executive Officer, Shoreline Energy International. I am Omono Okonkwo. See you next time on Energy Quick Chat, where we speak to leaders from the energy sector.